back to Musty's Quest. I spent the weekend in Canada, and with the intent primarily of going to the Barrie Game Exchange, and I wanted to show off not only what I picked up at the show, but all the other things that I happened to come across while I was up there. Now, I know that many of you are looking forward to Barrie footage. I am planning on discussing Barrie and the whole Canada trip as a whole during my episode of Second Breakfast, which will be out on Thursday. So look forward to that. I'm going to try and stick exclusively to the pickups here. Try not to get into too many stories because there is a lot to go through. Now, I did travel up with a couple people from the States, and as is normal tradition, there are some times where things get picked up ahead of time that we get to exchange at that point. So I traveled with Ryan, It's Rocket Sauce. He managed to grab a couple things for me from a local Goodwill. Two things in particular, one of them being the final game that was released on the original Xbox. That is Madden 09. This is kind of the grail of Madden games when it comes to the original Xbox, and it was in a limited print run, so Ryan found this for me at an extremely good price, considering what it goes for now, so picked that up. The other thing that came from Ryan was this. This is a Xbox 360 stand, holds 4 controllers, and as you can see, has 360 on the top. It is made of solid metal, and it is quite heavy, but it was, again, another great price. Thank you, Ryan, for looking out for me on this. These things are always kind of interesting to me. Great way to hold discs on the side here, and again, the console actually sits right down on the bottom. So, thank you, Ryan. So last November, Canadian Retro put on the Extra Life marathon of, I think it was 25 hours of gaming, and during those times he had some contests, and I actually happened to win something during that contest that he was going to send out to me, but then when I realized I was going to be out in Canada, it made more sense to just have him provide those to me once I had arrived. And so finally got that. What I had won was a copy of Mortal Kombat, no manual, but that's an easy solution. So a copy of Mortal Kombat. He also threw in, and I wasn't expecting this, Mario Kart DS, which I have actually been looking for. And then for the GBA, Dragon Ball Z, The Legacy of Goku 2. So thank you, Canadian Retro, for this. Glad that we could finally get to A, meet, and B, exchange those things. While in Barrie, I also had a little mini trade with the Mighty Q Dog. I had recently found something that he was interested in, and so he, coming the other way, I recently had my PS3. He had a beautiful copy of Resident Evil 5, which I remember playing some of on the 360, but Resident Evil is always a great series, almost always, in wonderful shape there as well. So thank you to Mighty Q Dog on that. Now on the first full day that we were in Canada, we actually hit up a small shop in the area called Microplay, and at Microplay they happened to have loose both the Samus amiibo and the Zero Suit Samus amiibo at a very good price compared to what I anticipate these will be going for in about a month. So I grabbed both of those out of necessity. I also am looking forward to the new Metroid game on the 3DS, and so having these will be an advantage to me. But we also hit a Value Village. I'd never been to a Value Village before. There was one in the area, and I found something that is more for my son than for me, but this is a full, it's quite a large Buzz Lightyear doll, and all of the noises and buttons work. I'm not going to hit all of them for you now, but one of the great things is that this does have the wings, and it is in really good shape. I do need to clean him up just a little bit. You know, usually when you pick up toys at a thrift shop, you might want to give them a good wipe down, or maybe scrub some of the just color that's kind of accumulated over the years, but this is in wonderful shape. Coincidentally enough, when I called my wife to tell her that I found this, she was looking on Amazon and picked up the 3-pack of Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 on Blu-ray. So we are actually going to watch that tonight, and Buzz is going to sit with my son and we're going to watch Toy Story. I actually made a small deal with P1 Cartridge Bros to acquire a couple of things from him, and just go right through those real quick here. I know this game is maligned. This is Lair. I got it more out of the fact that it was maligned than anything else. It was an early title for the PS3. Want to give it a try. We'll see. See how that goes. We also swapped copies of Mini Ninjas, which was the Cartridge Club Game of the Month in January. I had my 360 copy and he had this one, so I swapped with him on that. Another big item that we worked out a deal for is this collector's edition of Uncharted 3. Now this itself has the game. There is also a ring and a belt buckle and the figure for Nathan Drake. I enjoyed the first game. I'm looking forward to playing the second, and then now I have this nice collector's edition for the third. So thank you, P1, for that. One of the things he brought along, and this was actually from P2, well, it's from both of them. This was their childhood copy of the map for Final Fantasy II. And it is definitely seen a lot of use. It is taped up a lot, quite a bit. I was missing the map. This was the one piece that for my Super Nintendo, my Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games that I did not have. So now I have it, and it is, like I said, it has definitely seen its use. But to have a little piece of their history means a lot. I will treat this with the utmost respect, and you know, if it ever needs to leave my hands, it will go back to you guys, I promise. But thank you. And then P1 also worked out something for me to get me the last console I needed for the year of Sega. I have my Master System, I've got both the Sega Genesis and CD, I still have my Saturn, and now I have a Dreamcast. And along with it, 2 controllers, Rumble Pack, I think this is the Game Shark, and 2 VMUs. So I never had a Dreamcast, and so thank you, P1. This is awesome, and I am super excited to give this a try once I pick up a few more games. But the biggest thing that I got from P1 was something that I've always had a fondness for the Ninja Turtles, and he was going through some closets and had a bunch of figures that he wasn't going to use anymore. So I have a box of Ninja Turtle stuff, and some of these I don't recall having, some of these I did, and I'm quite excited, so I will try and go through these quickly. I don't remember the names of the individual components, but we have the helicopter with the little punching bags there. We have a Donatello, Baxter Stockman, cannot recall his name. And we have Michelangelo, and this is the one where you put the ripcord through and he actually speaks. Another Michelangelo. There's a Raphael, and one of the biggest pieces here is a turtle van, and the door, here it is. The door is with it here as well. There are other loose kind of components and figures in here. This is just crazy. I got to look through this box of stuff on Saturday night, and I felt like a kid in a candy store, and I think everyone kept saying it was Christmas for me, and it legit felt like it. I'm floored by this. So the P1, thank you for bringing these along, trucking them all the way from where you were, and letting me peruse and then grab these things. These have a lot of meaning, and the fact that it came from you, and these were your childhood toys really means a lot. So thank you on that. There's some more in here. This one's got a toilet on it and some plungers. There's this guy. I'm not sure what this is. I think this attaches to some kind of flying machine. For the foot, we have a little fan surfboard. There is the motorcycle with the sidecar, and a few other things. There are also a couple He-Man figures that he had that I grabbed as well. So we have He-Man himself. I got the Battle Damage Skeletor, which I remember having both of those, and then her name is escaping me, but got her as well. Also on Saturday night, I got to meet Bill from STC Pod. He had found this bag a few weeks back and was hanging on to it for me. This is a little messenger bag for Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, and it is in really good shape. I think he found it at a thrift shop somewhere. But it's really cool. Goes toward my Final Fantasy collection, and I have not seen. I can't find one of these on eBay. I don't know if you have familiarity or know where this would have come from. Please let me know. I'm kind of interested to get a little lineage on that. From there, it was off to the Barrie Game Exchange, which took place on Sunday. We got in with VIP, although we showed up a few minutes late. I'll explain that later. But I made a couple of deals with a couple of club members, and I, again, just want to express my gratitude to all of you. You guys are so awesome, and I will leave some more of that for the Barrie video itself. But I got these things from Miles and Catherine at Flock of Nerds. I also got a nice little fridge magnet, and I don't know if they have more of these, but you should see about print more, guys. These are really cool, and I will be hanging this proudly on my fridge, most definitely. Some of the things that I acquired from them, I did get a loose copy of Choplifter for the Sega Master System. This is a Japanese copy of Me and My Katamari for the PSP. I love the Katamari series, so I had to have that. We were joking about this. This was actually on my list. Well, not my main list, but on a secondary list that I wanted. They had a copy of Friends, the one with all the trivia. So grab that. My wife and I really enjoyed the series, and I think that she would get a kick out of this. So that was fantastic. And then the last thing I got is a Dreamcast game, and one in a series that I enjoy, and that is Ecco the Dolphin, Defender of the Future. So now I have that. I think the only Ecco game that I'm missing is Ecco Junior. So we dig that a lot. One of the deals that I made out on the floor was for another Dreamcast game, and one that was on my short, high priority list to acquire. If I only ended up with these two games, I would be pretty happy. But I have a copy of Soul Calibur for the Dreamcast, and it is in extremely good shape. The disc, I ran it past some people who are familiar with Dreamcast games, got a pretty good price on this. So I'm excited about Soul Calibur. I made a couple little deals with Derek from the Two Dorks. He also hosts the Dollar Dorks podcast. I had some things that I was bringing up that didn't come out in Canada, and he actually found this controller. This one I had posted in a forum post about how it was funny. We were looking at like weird controller variants, and I posted this picture, and within a couple of weeks he happened to come across one of them. So it was only fitting that we work out something to acquire it. And this is it's the Gamester. It is intended for first-person shooters. It is effectively two pistol grips with finger guards here, and there are no face buttons because they are inside the handles here. It also has a little LCD screen here. I believe you can program macros or maybe remap buttons in this. I need to do a little more research, but it's just a weird looking item, and I think it'll actually go really well with my Halo collection. The coloring is actually very similar to Master Chief's armor. So Derek, that's really cool. Again, super funny how you happen to come across it. So thank you there. Another thing that when I was on Dollar Dorks, we talked about was one of my childhood favorites for the Atari 2600. Now I had a loose copy of this, and we actually swapped that for this. So I now have a complete in-box copy of E.T. for the Atari 2600, and it is in immaculate shape. The cartridge itself is glorious. So, Derek, this means a lot. I hope that you or Cynthia get a chance to try this out at some point in time. So I'm glad that you have my copy. This is too cool. So thank you, Derek, for that. And then this last piece was my final purchase of the day that I made. I was realizing that I was kind of going thin on Xbox stuff, and so I wanted to look at something. Actually, he had an Xbox One Elite controller. I had not held one of these, and the moment that I did, I realized that I had to have this. It is in wonderful shape. He mentioned that he had done a little repair work on it because apparently the left shoulder button goes sometimes on these. Comes in a nice little case, but in here we have the controller itself. There are alternative thumbsticks, some that have a longer height to them. Some of these have the sort of PS style convex thumbsticks instead of the concave ones here, but the weight on this is fantastic. And one of the other nice things is not only on the back, you've got the option to add these sort of paddles that you can map the face buttons to. It also has a switch to change the throw distance on the triggers. So if you're playing a game that you need a lot of variability, since these are analog, you can leave it as a long throw distance, or you can shorten it up, and then it doesn't go down as far. So if you're playing a shooter or something like that, you can actually keep it so you don't have to push the buttons down all the way to get them to register. So, but the construction on this is great. Like I said, once I put my hands on it, I realized that it was something that, like, this is a game changer, I believe. So I'm looking forward to putting this thing through its paces and giving this a try, maybe with some Overwatch or something like that. But Derek, thank you for all of those things. 2 controllers. It was really, really it was good working that out with you, so thank you. Now the rest of what I have here are NES titles. I was nearing the end of, I think I kind of said I was tapped out on NES collecting, but I had seen a recent video from Vintage Video Game Geek going over all of the Tengen titles, and so I was kind of compelled to go after those. But first, there were a couple others that I grabbed. One of these came as part of, I made a deal for some of those Tengen games, and it was in my favor, so I needed to find something to kind of balance the trade that I had made with this guy. So I got a copy of Super Off-Road, Ivan Ironman Stewart's Super Off-Road. From Creepleet, I swapped a Super Wide Gear for the Game Gear. I know he's a big Game Gear collector, and I swapped that for a copy of Monopoly, which I had heard recommended from Pam on Cannot Be Tamed. So wanted to have that. She said that was a great way to play Monopoly, which is awesome. And then almost all the rest are Tengen games. Now, going into today, I had Klax, Tubin, and I had acquired Tetris at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I have 15 Tengen games that I found at this event. I am just going to pick these out in random, and we'll just go through them. We'll go through them all. So we have Skull and Crossbones, RBI Baseball 2, Alien Syndrome, RBI Baseball 1, Fantasy Zone, Roadrunner, Super Sprint, RBI Baseball 3, which as I understand is one of the harder Tengen games to find, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, again another one that I rarely see. We actually saw one at Microplay, and this was half the price of that. So I jumped all over that after mulling it over a little bit, but Afterburner, Gauntlet, Rolling Thunder, Vindicators, and these last two I got in a combo deal. They had given me a price. It was right at about what I wanted. I wanted to kind of make a little bit better deal, but they had two other games that had the Tengen sleeves. So I convinced them to give me the sleeves, and I told her I would do it at that price if she threw the sleeves in. So that was Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. So now of the Tengen games, I now have 18 of the 20. I'm missing Pac-Mania, I'm missing Shinobi. So that, I really liked having a goal to kind of accomplish and to set out to find 17 of them and actually have success and find 15 of them. I actually felt really good about that. Which brings me to the last pickup, and the reason why we're calling this a Musty's Quest episode is I got one of the games off of that top 100 NES list that I have been working on for so long. I was looking for this one very actively, and that is Dragon Warrior 4. This was the last reasonably achievable game that I could pick up off of this list, and this is amazing. How this worked out, the guy that I went to had 2 copies. Now both, I'll talk price on this one. Both of these were marked at $100 Canadian. Now it's usually I think a $75 game or so in the US. One of them had a really good label, and this one has a nice little, if you can see, a nice little scar there on the label itself. I wanted to talk him down, so I grabbed the good labeled one, and I asked him if he would do 80. He said he could do 90, and I was ready to do that deal. He then looked. I think he knew he had another copy. He looked, and he pulled this one out, and he said, "I don't know why these were marked the same price, so I'm sorry about the confusion. I will do this one for 60." So I got a $30 discount for a little scar, and I didn't have to really barter at all, which is just plain awesome. So I'm super happy here. This knocks out, I'm now at 98 of that 100. The last 2 I am likely just going to get repros of because I am just not in a position to drop that kind of cash on Samson or Zombie Nation. So this, I think, effectively closes out my primary goal of that NES collecting, although I'm feeling like there are some other little subsets that I'm kind of interested in, and so this may kind of revitalize some things on the NES collecting if this Tengen group didn't do that itself. And I wanted to point out one more little shout out, one more thank you to RetroPixel. Again, I had guested on his podcast at the beginning of August. When we were talking, I was talking about what I was looking for. He told me that he had a game case for Dragon Warrior 4 that had somebody had gone and taken the box and cut it up, which is just so sad, and put it into this case, and so he gave this to me to accompany my Dragon Warrior 4. So James, thank you. I'm extremely grateful. This is just a really nice way to kind of put a bow on this whole thing and put a bow on my Canadian weekend. I had an absolute blast, and again, I will be addressing all of my trip and any questions that you have on Second Breakfast this week. So please stay tuned and look forward to me talking about the trip. Thank you for coming by. Again, if you have any familiarity with where this came from, or if you know where this came from, let me know. I'm interested to find out. But I have got some games to test and some things to clean up, and we got to get to watching Toy Story. So I will catch you later. Please subscribe if you aren't already, and please like the video if you did. I have been Musty. Take care of yourself. Be good to each other.